resume where we left off in the previous video, and that is taking a look at using auto-retopology on hard surface models. What I'm doing at this stage is I'm trying to create a very simplified version that I can run the Auto-Retopo routine with. I'm stopping here to switch to voxel mode. Give it about 1,000,000 polys. And I'm using the fill brush or the fill tool because in voxel mode sometimes it works a little bit better than it does in surface mode. But nonetheless, what I'm trying to do is make sure that I fill in all the holes that I really don't want geometry representing. In other words, all these little small surface details I can suffice with just a normal map showing it or faking it. After getting the auto-retopologized mesh, then when I go to bake, I can use the original version, the higher poly version. So I'm going to go through this one time here, about 20,000 polys, and I'm going to try 1.5 on the density multiplier. I'm going to set some stroke guides. And I think you'll find that when you have objects like this, even though it's not ultra complex, you still have a number of different shapes on this particular object that may force you to go through a few attempts in order to get it right. But after a while, you'll start to realize what works and what does not with certain types of shapes and so on. Now here in this little area, Auto-Retopo generally has some difficulty working with very thin parts sometimes, so may have to revisit this in the voxel room and make that a little thicker. We'll go ahead and run it again. And as you can see, there are some parts that are okay and other parts that are not, so we're probably going to have to go through and redo this. Okay, so after some further tweaking, I was able to come up with a result that I was fairly happy with. And what I did is I adjusted some of the stroke guides. I also deleted one side so Auto-Retopo could work on just one object, and also adjusted the auto density somewhat, and decided to go with about 7,000 on this particular model. Hit OK. And I'm going to skip this first part of the wizard. And again, as you can see, I tweaked the guides a little bit. I tried to break up some of these that were, long contiguous strokes that were connected. So I tried to break them up in the corners here. And you can do that by holding the control key and just clicking on one of those points, and it will disconnect the line right at that point. Okay, so undo. Also removed a few loops here. It seemed to help improve the result. Also deleted a few of the little spline guides here, because oftentimes it just creates a little too much complexity if you have too many. So okay, so let's go ahead and give this a run. I'm going to add a few more right here just in case. I want to ensure that this area is relatively clean. So hit next. Now pause while it calculates. Okay, and so there's our result. It created a relatively clean mesh. And again, An algorithm is rarely going to give you perfect topology, but in this case it did a relatively good job. Okay, so let's hit the escape key to kind of deselect all those polygons. I'll hide that part. And here in the Voxtree layer panel, I'm going to go to the voxel room and I'm going to create an instance or a mirrored instance by going to the adjust section of the tool panel here under instancer, and I can click new mirror Z, and with put instance in subtree checked, it's going to create a child layer, or it's going to make that a child layer of this initial object. Alright, so let's go back to the Retopo room. I'll unhide this mesh and turn symmetry on. And so at the bottom of the layer panel, I'll just click this symmetrical copy icon. And there we go. Alright, so I'll hide that and we'll work on this next object. I'll select this layer. I'm going to hit the space bar to bring the tool panel to me so I don't have to scroll to the bottom here each time. Choose smooth all. Now right click, choose Auto-Retopo. I'll adjust the polygon count to 2500 symmetrically along the Z-axis. And this time I'm not going to apply any guides. Sometimes when it's very basic like this, it's better to just leave it alone. So I'm going to clear all these guides. Now you want to be careful that sometimes if you're in certain tools, I've noticed like points and faces, if you click clear, it's going to clear all your Retopo layers, and you don't want that. I'm not sure that's supposed to be that way, but tools like strokes, if you click clear, it will just clear the strokes, and that's it, and that's what we want. So yeah, I'll click next. I just wanted to add that word of warning. Okay, so this did a relatively good job considering we didn't apply any stroke guides. I could probably use this just fine, but I want to show how the strokes tool itself is kind of an intermediate auto-retopology tool, and I typically will prefer to use it over anything else, or at least try to get as far as I can in the retopology process, because it's a good blend between auto-retopology and manual precision. So let's see how fast we could get this knocked out using the strokes tool. So I'll just go ahead and hide this layer, create a new one, and I'll go to an orthographic view, side view. Let's try the front. I'm going to zoom in, hit the S key and check no symmetry, because I want to go all the way through the object here. So I'm going to start outside the object, and what I want to do is just create loops all the way through at the top. So hold the shift key. That's done. Same thing here. Shift key, drag all the way through. I'll hit my hotkey for the top view. In here, I can ghost this layer, but I can't apply any strokes to it unless I go to the voxel room, and in the ghosted volumes I have options here. By default, it prevents me from doing anything with it. I can't pick it, I can't act on it, I can't manipulate it at all. But if you choose one of these other options like pick and act, then here in the Retopo room I can see through and I can work on it as well. So what this will allow me to do is go ahead and create a stroke here. I'll start here at the center. And then I'll just create a circle here. Hold the control key. Kind of an ugly circle at the moment, but it'll suffice. And okay, oops. And this doesn't have to be perfect at all, because we can always use the brush tool and hold the shift key and it will relax this geometry here once we're done, if I need to. Okay, so with that done, I want to go to the number of segments, and by default it's at 12. I want to make it 24. Hit the enter key. And you can see it creates geometry. So it's really very similar to working with the auto-retopology routine where you apply stroke guides. I just told 3D Coat that I wanted a radial pattern for this topology and exactly where I wanted the edge loops. And it, boom, creates all the polygons exactly as I wanted it. Okay, so at this point, let me use the split rings tool here. Go back to the brush tool. And what's happening here is it's not shrinking in because it's keeping bounds while smoothing. So if I uncheck that, then all of a sudden, so this is perfect for eyes and things of that sort, or maybe round shields and so on. Okay, and now I can use the cap tool, close that in. And there we have it. Okay, so we have that part done. Go to a side view again here. We'll finish the bottom part. Strokes tool. So basically I'm going to do roughly the same thing here at the bottom. Hold the shift key, drag all the way across. Same thing here. And this one, if I can, I want to put it right at the edge so that it makes it easier to add polygons at the bottom if I need. So yeah, with that done, I'll go back to a top view. Hold the shift key. Don't really have to hold the shift key in this case, but make sure that crosses this other loop. So I'll hold the control key, just finish that up. Hit enter. And I'll undo. I think this loop here is probably a little too low, so delete that little extra stroke there I didn't need. Hold the shift key. The enter key. There we go. Okay, so now I probably want to turn my symmetry panel on. Okay, so let's go to the Move Vertices tool. I want to kind of align these a little bit. Choose Vertices, reduce my brush size. I can unghost that layer if I need. Kind of nudge these into place, and I can go ahead and weld these with the Move Vertices tool. When I see it red, it allows me to weld it. Same thing will happen here. And I can reduce the opacity if I want to see through a little bit. Let's do the same thing here real quick. Try to speed this up. Okay, so I want to try and pull all of these polygons down, so I'll use the select tool, edges. Use the transform tool just real quick. Hit escape. Move vertices. Click. Yeah, with this basic geometry, there's going to be a little bit of the underlying voxel logic sticking through, but once we subdivide a time or two, that'll rectify that problem. Okay, so we just want to connect these up on the bottom. Sometimes when you have an object, let's see here. There we go. Yeah, sometimes we may want it to be hollow, sometimes not. We'll close that off. So a couple different tools that we could use. We could use the quads tool. In this case, I'm just going to revert back to the strokes tool. And I'm just going to draw these out real quick. I'm not going to be too concerned with how pretty and straight they are. Bottom view, so one key on the number pad. Hold the shift key. Going across. Hit the H key. And sometimes it may leave you with an extra polygon or something, or I mean a blank section. That's fine. I'll just try the quads tool here. And there are a couple different options for the quads tool. You could choose the extrusion method. The default is a 2 clicks method. In this case, I believe I have parallel chosen. All right, so now this is an easy enough task for the points and faces tool. I'm just right clicking. Once I see kind of a preview that I like, and I'm going to use the split rings tool to add one split there, and so that I can make these quads here on the end. Points and faces, put a point here, point here. Oops. You can right click and reposition it. Okay. Sometimes if the resulting polygon looks too much like a triangle, that's what it will create. I can right click and tweak the position of the vertex if I need. Right click again. And there you go. Let's use the split rings tool kind of to subdivide a little bit. Okay, so let's move on to the next object. I'll hide that. Going to right click and choose Auto-Retopo. Let's try 1500. And no symmetry. We'll copy that back over here shortly. Okay. Just go straight through. Okay. Did a fairly decent job. Hit escape. And so with this one, going to turn symmetry back on, hitting the S key, and I'm going to invert the mirror because these faces are on the negative side of the z-axis, so I need to make sure this is checked. So I'll go ahead and click that. Okay, so there we have it. Let's see, there was our previous Auto-Retopo attempt, which again was not too bad. But we did it just a little bit better by manual retopology with the strokes tool. Okay, so I'm going to conclude this tutorial by reiterating the point that even though auto-retopology is intended to make laborious and time-consuming tasks much easier, it still is an algorithm that we're working with. We're not handing this off to a person, so we need to try to take the complexity that we have and simplify it as much as possible in order to get the best result. So I hope this helps, and thank you for watching.